Hello everyone, welcome to another NASCAR Thunder 2004 modding video. In this one we're doing Vanilla Plus, which is a little bit easier than the mod tool. This is kind of just a complete package deal for those that just want the base game with some extras thanks to some of the modding tools and things that we've found over the past year. That said though, you're not going to get all of the features, you're not going to get all the bells and whistles of the actual mod tool. There's only so many that we can put into little cheat codes here, which you'll see in a bit. But you will get most of the benefits of everything for a refined NASCAR Thunder 04 experience. It's still, you're just going to be that 2003 season is going to be what your starting point is, and the retirements and stuff will be more interesting and more realistic than just fantasy drivers, which you'll see what I mean in a bit. But first things first is how we install this guy. So when you download this, it's just going to be that zip file. Once you get it, go ahead and right click on that zip file, and you should, I have 7-zip, you'll have something else that might just say extract all. I'm going to go ahead and use 7-zip to extract to here. It doesn't much matter which method you use to extract the files as long as you get them out of the zip. And there should be a folder called MT04 pack and then a pnatch file. So what we're going to do, you might not see the pnatch on the end of it unless you see the type here. I'm displaying extensions. You might not see that. That's okay. You'll just see SLUS and all of this. So what you're going to do is open your PCSX2 emulator. You do still need the special build of this, which I've provided previously and is linked below. The texture swapping doesn't work without the special build, so that's why we need it. So what you'll do is you'll open up your PCSX2, you'll go to settings at the top. You don't have to have any games loaded. You go to settings and then down to folders. And in your folders you'll see the second one down should be cheats directory. You're going to need this for a moment, so go ahead and hit open on that. And you'll want to take that SLUS file from the Vanilla Plus pack and just go ahead and drag that over. If you have a file already there, replace it. And then go back to your PCSX2, back to your settings, which again you could go settings, folders. And you actually want to go to graphics now on the left. And texture replacement, you should have these three checked. This one unchecked, the dump unchecked, just the left side here. Load, asynchronous, and precache should all be checked. But down here under search directory, it'll have your path to your textures. You'll want to hit open. And I realize there's a lot of folders here if you've been playing a lot of games like me. But if you remember from the cheats file, that SLUS code is what we need. This folder won't exist if you've not dumped textures before. You can go ahead and create it, but be very careful that you name it exactly what it needs to be. So you can see the one we copied was 20824. So we want to make a folder, if it's not here, capital SLUS-20824. Once you're in there, I have a bunch of files. This is from me messing around. The only thing you'll need in here is a replacements folder. Again, make sure you spell it correctly in all lowercase if it doesn't exist already. Go ahead into that folder, and this is where you want to put, I already have it here, but I'll just delete it just for example's sake. You want to grab that NT04 pack folder and just throw it right into your replacements folder. If you have other stuff in this folder, then they might conflict with each other in the game. So if you've been using any of the modding tools before, you'll want to clear out what's in here and throw that pack in fresh. After you've done all that, you can go ahead and load up your copy of Thunder 04. And while it's loading, you want to go to Settings, Game Properties. Go down to cheats, and you'll notice there might be a bunch of cheats here, which this is not how we've done it before, and that's okay. This is different. If you don't see cheats here, then you want to make sure that you set up that folder correctly and you put it in the right place. But once the loading screen is done, you want to wait until, you can speed up the emulator if you want, but you want to wait until it says press start button. When it says that, you go ahead and enable cheats. And I just want to go through these quick. So this top line is the initial Vanilla Plus load, and I'll explain why it says initial and what you're supposed to do with that info in a little bit. We'll come back to that. But that's essentially the majority of the changes to get all this modding stuff to work. The 60 FPS cheat, this is optional. If your game's lagging a little bit, if you're having issues with that sort of thing, then you'll want this off. But if you want the game to run at 60 FPS, you just leave that checked. Then these are AI options, which are kind of the opposite of what it sets for Legend. So lower defense, higher rec frequency, lower aggression, higher mistakes, lower pitch strategy. I usually don't run the lower pitch strategy and the lower aggression, so I'm going to uncheck those. But higher rec frequency, higher mistakes, and lower defense, I like running those personally. But you can run whatever combo you want. If you have them unchecked, it's just going to use what the base game has, the vanilla experience, which should be stuff like on Legend they don't wreck much, but on Rookie they still do. And I was a little too slow to react, so give me a moment. Now remember, when you reload the game, you'll want to uncheck this enable cheats before the loading screen. If this is checked, you might get stuck on this loading screen. I have that problem, some people don't. The other options here, I'm going to actually just pause it so it doesn't go into demo mode on me. The other options here, so we now have a way to enable and disable the Legends drivers as active drivers instead of Legends. And it'll use their existing ratings, which actually work well for this mod stuff, which I'll get into why that's a little different. Because normally they dominate the the race now and season mode stuff if they're, I don't know if they could be in season mode, but in the race now they're really fast. But that'll be fixed now, so we're all good here. But if you want them to be an active driver, you check the box next to their name for active. And then if you want them to not retire after the first season, then you go ahead and check the box for never retires. So if you're running multiple years and you want them to not retire, you just check that. You can uncheck it partway through if you want them to actually retire. I have no idea if the replacements work for them or not. It probably does. I think it does. So that'd be kind of fun. But that's an option there. I will say, though, numbers that repeat from Legend drivers to other drivers in the pack, they will have multiples of the same number on track. That's just a side effect of it. I didn't set it up to lock out certain cars so that whether Legends have precedence or not. I might have been able to do that, but I don't know if it would have broke for while they're not active. But I don't know. Didn't mess with that. So there might be multiples of car numbers on the track. If you activate Petty, then there's going to be 243s out there. But otherwise, if you leave it vanilla, it should be good. So we're going to go ahead and load in now that I have all of that set up. And at this point, if you want to make sure the mod's working, just go into Race Now and check that your driver portraits and everything matches up. You're going to notice everybody's paint scheme besides their testing cars every paint scheme is going to be just their primary. I was messing with trying to get them to run something other than their primaries, but for some reason whenever I run cheat codes at all, even if they don't affect the drivers, it seems to lock people into their specific paint schemes, into one random paint scheme forever. So I don't have a good way of them actually randomly going between their paints. So we're just kind of stuck with the primaries in this tool, or in this Vanilla Plus mode. But if you want variety, then I recommend checking out the mod tool itself and getting to the slightly more advanced setup and all that. But anyway, what I actually have set up here, so I'm going to go through this later in the video, but I have all of the 2003 drivers that we have paints for. Some of these are upscaled, like the Zero car is upscaled. Nobody has repainted it yet. But if as paints get added, I'm going to update this pack, so it'll have fresh paint schemes in it once people paint the primary ones. We still have paints trickling in from a couple different people in the Discord community. If you are a painter and you're watching this and you want to contribute, please join us and pick a year that you like. Even if it's 03, you can help update these paint schemes for us. But once you've gone in here, if you have all the Thunder plates unlocked, you'll notice that there's no real fantasy drivers besides the Speed Zone cars and the pace car. Everything else has been changed to other drivers, which is for sort of the later retirements and stuff, which is what makes this Vanilla Plus. It's part of what makes it extra. So we'll go ahead and we'll back up. We've confirmed that that works. So at this point, you'd want to start your season or your career, depending on what you want to run. I'm going to just start a new career. And I did fix the 36 race schedule. You do want to run the 36 race schedule with this mod tool. It might, I don't know, not mod tool. I'm so used to saying that. With this Vanilla Plus pack, because it might break the other season lengths. I'm not sure if it does or not, but it definitely works at 36. So leave this all on. Go ahead and start a career. Now, once you're in your career mode, go ahead and save it. And once you save it to your memory card, I'm just going to save it as test here. Once you save it to your memory card, you can actually go ahead and in the cheats section, go ahead and uncheck the initial Vanilla Plus load. So now that it's saved to your memory card, this will actually load in the correct names and roster and drivers and all the other things for this career mode on its own. So you actually don't need that active anymore. The reason we even bother to disable it is because if you don't disable it, when you end the season and start a new year, it's not going to show the retirement screen properly, so that's going to mess things up a little bit. They'll still retire and get replaced, but you won't know who it is till you see them on track or don't see them on track anymore. So it's by shutting them off, it allows that screen to actually be visible and the retirements to be properly set up. Also, if you mid-career activate or deactivate the, let me get back to it. If you deactivate or reactivate the legend drivers, they might stay on track or not be on track right away. It might take a new season rollover for it to take effect. I haven't messed with this much, but I know they don't, if I activate them right before retirement screen, they don't retire and they don't seem to race in the last one. So you may have to mess with that. I'd either run them for the whole thing or don't. That's what I recommend, but the never retires is the only thing that you'd probably want to toggle at some point. Alright, beyond that, all you need is those couple of checkboxes for the AI settings. Otherwise, it's at this point, it's just the base game in its full, regular experience. So I've loaded up a different save where I have it at the end of the season, and just to show that the retirements still happen as normal. So Morgan Shepherd retired. He's one of the extra drivers. Brendan Gaughan replaced him. Brett Bodine retired. Reed Sorensen replaced him, and Kenny Wallace retired with no replacement. So just to show that's one of the things that does still work. I just wanted to load that up. But if let's just sim a race here. Oh, I gotta rehire people. And I don't have sponsors, that's okay. So you'll see the results here. I will say when you simulate, they're very skewed. The base game was kind of like this too. Some people would dominate, but this is with the actual full season of 2003 ratings mixed in. I did also make this so that the drivers are a little bit harder than the base game. It's not a huge difference, but they're definitely a little bit tougher than the base game, which makes the legend drivers actually not just dominate. That makes them kind of run near the front. Sometimes they win, sometimes they don't. So I think it's a little bit better anyway for encouraging people to run with the legend drivers in the mix if they want. But you can see Reed Sorensen replaced Brett Bodine and actually ran pretty well here, and we got all those differences there. But a deeper roster. Also, there shouldn't be repeat car numbers. So I have John Andretti active, and you should not see Fittipaldi. That's part of the new stuff that wasn't in the mod tool before. So there shouldn't be repeat drivers. But if Andretti retires and nobody replaces him, or if he jumps to a different car, replaces somebody else for some reason, then you'll see Fittipaldi start racing the 43. Alright, that's pretty much it. If you guys have, I'm going to go through the drivers here in a minute, but if you guys have questions or problems with the mod, please join our Discord. Also check out the website. Also note, if you go back to the main menu, as you can see, it reset. Sprague's no longer listed as the part-time. It's showing him as the full Cup Series. So it does reset the drivers and the fantasy drivers and stuff. Now, obviously, the car number and stuff is different, but it did reset all that stuff by having the cheats off. But when you load up, so I could even show you how it's still messed up here. But if I reload into my career without having to reset those cheats, it should still have the same correct drivers and extra people, like, for example, Blaney, Andretti being in the 43, Mike Bliss, so it still works. Once you start that career and save that career, it seems to keep them that way, unless you loaded another mod, then it would overwrite them. So you should be able to then play through the career mode or the season mode without any issues. But yeah, as I was saying, go ahead and join the Discord and reach out there if you have any issues. But this should be a lot easier to use than the regular mod tool. It's really just putting 2 files in the correct place, making sure. Oh, one thing I'm gonna cut this in earlier, but make sure when you go to graphics that these are still checked in the game itself. So when you go settings, game properties, check under graphics, make sure that's still checked, and under cheats, make sure they're checked. What you need initially here. So at this point of the video, if you would like no spoilers for what drivers are in this mod, we have the extended 2003 roster, and we added drivers. I added drivers that I had paint schemes for from other packs that other people have painted, and that are of upcoming years. So you should have drivers like Kyle Busch and Carl Edwards and them show up. Though with the replacements, the way the game does it, it seems like it's just completely random. They're going to end up in all sorts of weird rides. So there's all sorts of fun to be had if you're one of those YouTubers or gamers who want to just get through the seasons and see who replaces who ends up in what ride. There's going to be more silly combinations and swaps than the base game because we don't have fantasy drivers. We have all real drivers. So if you don't want spoilers of who's potentially here, then you don't really want to check out this full roster page if you have the Thunder plates unlocked or the rest of this video. For once, I'm going to say, before you click off, go ahead, subscribe, like, all that stuff like that people say to do. And I just noticed this base paint scheme, that doesn't line up on the hood, but that's how they painted it for the base game. Anyway, anyone else who wants to stick around and see all the paints here, they are the same as our 2003 mod, and a couple of these might be updated, but I'm going to point out which ones are upscale and which ones are actually repainted here. I think it'll be obvious after you see it a little bit, but we'll go through them here. So we have Jack Sprague in the 0 as part-time. Anybody that shows the Busch Series, I'm going to update these icons before this is released, but anything that shows Busch Series, they're essentially part-time. If it's fantasy, then they'll come in after enough people retire, and they may just be replacements without that. So Jack Sprague part-time, Jeff Green in the 1, that's obviously high-res, full-time. Nadu's high-res, full-time. Rusty Wallace is high-res. Mike Skinner, high-res. Terry Labonte. Mark Martin, I'll just point out which ones are upscaled. Dale Jr., Bill Elliott in the 9, Johnny Benson in the 10, that one's just upscaled, nobody repainted that yet. Brooke Bodine, that one actually got repainted. Ryan Newman, Mikey Waltrip, Greg Biffle is just upscaled, though I think somebody that might be upgraded by the time you guys get this, because I think somebody just painted Biff, if I remember right. Matt Kenseth, he's just upscaled. Bobby Labonte, Jeremy Mayfield, Tony Stewart, Ricky Rudd's just upscaled. Ward Burton, Kenny Wallace is upscaled. Jeff Gordon, Joe Nemechek, Kevin Harvick is only upscaled. Steve Park, Robbie Gordon's upscaled. Ricky Craven's upscaled. Elliott Sadler, Sterling Marlin, Casey Mears, Jamie McMurray, Christian Fittipaldi. Notice he's listed as part-time. So again, in this one, John Andretti's in the 43 primarily, and then if and when he retires or whatever, Fittipaldi will swap in. Also, if cars have rookie stripes, they may end up, like, if they have rookie stripes in the menu, they're going to have rookie stripes all the time, even when they're not a rookie. I don't have all the paint schemes with and without stripes to be able to do the fancy thing of actually getting it to work properly. Though I will say to the painters out there, having a version with and without rookie stripes will make it work, or I have a way to make it work to where they actually use the cars with the rookie stripes when they are a rookie, if somebody replaces on their way up. So there's a way to do it, and I know how. It's just I don't have the paint schemes for it, so that's not how it's going to work right now. Kyle Petty's an upscaled paint. Jimmy Johnson's and Kenny Schrader's upscaled. Kevin LePage upscaled. Mike Bliss, that one's a new paint, obviously, because that wasn't even in the base game, or Mike Bliss at all, really. Well, actually, he's in a Busch ride, but anyway, Dale Jarrett is... I thought that one got repainted. That one looks upscaled to me for some reason. Maybe it's just the shade of the car. No, that one's upscaled, because looking at the contigs, you can tell. Kurt Busch is upscaled. Jeff Burton is upscaled. And then we have our Legends drivers. Now, they're all in the regular paints here. Nobody's repainted these because we hadn't included them in any packs yet. But maybe someone will do those. I could throw the Kawicki one from the 1990 pack in if I really, really wanted to. We could do that too, but I'm not going to yet. This Vanilla Plus may get updated as well, just a heads up. So there may be things added or changed to it. Obviously, like Benny Parsons, one of his cars doesn't even have numbers on the door. So the other drivers that got added, so Jimmy Spencer. Now, Earnhardt Jr., Jeff Burton, and Harvick's Busch rides, I kept them the same. I could have swapped other drivers in, but I wasn't sure how that would work because I know it's the way it works behind the scenes. It's a little bit funky because it kind of shares some information between the drivers, so I just left them in. And they'll just act as normal. Brian Vickers. So anything that doesn't say 2003 down the bottom here is somebody that I set them to fantasy. If they're not 2003, they're set to fantasy. If they're 2003, they're part-time or full-time. So that way, those drivers, the fantasy drivers, they definitely won't show up in the first season. And they're very, very unlikely to show up in the second season unless they replace people. So they'll probably all be later than 04, even if they happen to be 04 or whatever. But there's, as far as the car showing up on track, it would take Joe Nemechek retiring and not getting replaced for Vickers to show up on track eventually, and also enough part-time drivers to retire or not show up that they need to fill the field with fantasy. So you're unlikely to see this car till late in the career mode or season mode. It'd be quite a few years in before you'd potentially see it, but it's there. So Scott Wimmer's a 2003 paint. Carl Long, 2004. Todd Bodine, 2003, full-time. David Green, 2003, part-time. Tony Raines, 2003, full-time, in that beautiful Speed Racer car. Dave Blaney, 2003, full-time. Stanton Barrett is an 04 car, that's why he's listed as fantasy. Jason Jarrett, 2003, part-time. I don't even think he actually made a start. I know he attempted. Mikey Waltrip's Busch car there from the base game. Buckshot Jones is part-time. Rudiman is a future driver who won't show up till Jones retires potentially, and then also enough that it gets down to fantasy. Ron Fellows in the 1, he drove that in 03. Boris said in the 01 he drove that in the 03, but they shouldn't show up till those primary rides aren't in action. Truex, same thing. He's kind of 2 rides back. He's behind Fellows and Jeff Green as well, so he's kind of got a ways to actually show up in the 1 car, but it's here. And he'll at least have a chance of replacing other drivers. So it would be funny if he ended up in the 1 car for people. Hermie Sadler, that's an upscale car. We have Kyle Busch will show up eventually. Travis Quaffle will show up eventually. David Reagan. Casey Atwood. So Casey Atwood was a weird one. I put his 2002... I put him in the 7 car. It is just Jimmy Spencer's paint, but I put his 2002 roughly stats. Not that they were great that year. I think he did a lot better when he was in the 19 car. But anyway, I just threw him in as a fun, kind of what if, because I think he left the sport way too soon and didn't get enough opportunity. And I needed one more driver to really fill out the entire full game roster. So I just decided to add Atwood. Clint Boyer from 06. Ted Musgrave is an 03 season car that they made 2 starts with, I think. Casey Kane, eventually going to be in the 9. Maybe it'll play out that way. Who knows? Mike Wallace, 09. That's a 2003 paint. Scott Riggs eventually goes in the 10. Denny Hamlin, eventually the 11. Larry Foyt's a 2003 car, part-time. And this one should stay. He ran the 14 and the 50. I used the 14 just because that one seemed more open in general. So that's which one he's in. J.J. Yaley will show up eventually. John Wood eventually. Shane Meal. Jacques Villeneuve, I put him in a different car. There's 2 people I put in weird cars that were not cars they drove. Actually 3 if you count Atwood. Granted, Atwood drove the 7, just not that paint scheme that was shown. I put him in the 26 just because that number's not really used, and I could absolutely see Villeneuve driving a Crown Royal car, and just happen to have this one from Mosby. So yeah, that's why I used that one. Johnny Sauter in the 30 then. Paul Menard's in the base game paint. This is obviously repainted though. Somebody did a beautiful job with that. I forget who did the Menard one. There's like 3 different people doing the 03 paints. So it's kind of a crapshoot without my notes here. Derek Cope in the 37. He's part-time for 03. David Gilliland will eventually show up. Scott Pruitt is listed as part-time in 03, though he should show up because that number's not used, unlike Ron Fellows and Borsed. David Stremme in the 40 eventually. Reed Sorensen in the 41. Juan Pablo Montoya the 42. There's John Andretti's full-time ride. I know he's in a different spot than all the other full-time guys, but it's just depending on what driver they replace is kind of where they end up. PJ Jones will show up eventually as well. I left the EA Sports car as is because that one's not used for anything. Let's see. Jason Leffler in the mix. Dario Franchitti. This is the other one I threw in a weird car. Again, 66 is underutilized. I had the paint scheme thanks to, I think, Mosby for this one. It was an 07 paint, I think. And I just thought I'd throw him in that one. Something different. Brendan Gaughan, eventually in the 77. Kerry Earnhardt was an 03 part-timer. AJ Allmendinger in the 84 eventually. Morgan Shepherd, part-timer in 03. And then the last 2, Andy Hillenberg and Carl Edwards will show up eventually. And then, like I said, the pace car and the SC cars are unutilized. I actually could, if I really, really wanted to, I could use them, but we have quite a super full roster. I think it's 90 drivers total. So you should be able to play through the entire career mode or 20 seasons worth of season mode with a full field of cars and all real drivers in the mix. So it ought to be a lot of fun to play a full career with for those that just kind of want the vanilla game plus a little extra and don't actually want to go through time like I want to with the career mode. So this is just something a little different, some alternate experience of kind of just the base game with some extra features and beautiful paints. And as I said, these will get updated as the paints get updated. So we'll have that too in the future. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. I know it was a little bit long because I went through all of the drivers. That was where all the freaking time went. So this one took a bit, but I appreciate you guys giving a like, giving a follow, all that stuff. Not a follow, subscription, yeah. Not a paid subscription, but a subscribe. You know what I mean. These are the words. I'm new to this stuff, so it is what it is. Also, I changed my links, my download links. They should all go to a Buy Me a Coffee page sort of thing. Just throwing that out there. A lot of people requested and asked for that sort of stuff, so I thought I'd just put it in the link, and then people can, if you want to donate anonymously or not anonymously, it's up to you. It's appreciated. I am hosting files on Dropbox, and I am using a paid Dropbox account so that the downloads can be basically unlimited, so it doesn't get bogged down, and so I actually have room to store all of these different mods and tools and everything. Alright guys, that's going to do it. Again, if you have any issues, join the Discord or check out the website. The website doesn't explain the Vanilla Plus stuff, but it should be a lot more straightforward than the mod tool itself. But minus a lot of the bells and whistles and fancy features. Alright, thanks again guys. Later.